for you, you were acting in school plays since you were a young girl.
Yeah.
And was acting always something you were going to do? Or do you feel like it was this cross-section of what was happening in your personal life that actually made that feel like the direction you would choose?
I think it's so interesting that you said those words, reveal and escape, that they're kind of the same thing, because I think that it all started with a poem. I did a poetry competition when I was 9 called the Daisy Pratt Poetry Competition. And I'm actually naturally quite a shy person. And so actually for me to stand up in front of people feels like an out-of-body experience. Like there's so much adrenaline coursing through my veins that it does feel like a moment outside of time. And I remember the exhilaration of living the kind of ups and downs of this poem. And maybe because there wasn't space to have conversations or express myself at that time in the way that I needed to, I did it through performance. And I also did it as a way of getting to feel free for a moment of what I was, like the discomfort of that time of not quite knowing who I was or how to be in the world. And as I've become more healed and whole and more comfortable being myself, it's been interesting to ask myself, do you still need acting? Do you still need to act? Like, why? What are you doing that for? And like the kind of, it used to feel like almost like a compulsion that I needed to do it. And what's really interesting now is I don't feel quite that kind of urgency of needing to do it. And I wonder if it's because actually I have spaces where I can now take some of those feelings and talk about some of the things I don't think I had space to voice. Without doing it on camera in front of thousands of people.
Yeah, which is scary in its own way, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to think, oh, that makes sense, but then it's like, well, no, it's really challenging to do that second part.
Yeah.
Even if it makes sense rationally or logically. And was that what in 2019 when you kind of pulled away, was your reason, I want to heal and work on myself, or was it actually, I don't feel a compulsion anymore? Like, was that the inflection point of doing some self-work, or was that the inflection point of, I need to pause?
I realized I was drawing on painful stuff in my life that I was actually healing, and I didn't want to keep revisiting in order to do some of the more intense, scarier, sadder things that I had to do. I remember by Beth's deathbed, by her graveside when we shot those films, like normally there are like these painful memories that I would use for those moments. And I realized, I was like, I don't know if this is super great for me actually to keep revisiting these, or if I want to use these as my tools. And I don't think that means I'll never come back to acting. I think it just meant I was like, I wonder if there's a different way to do this. I think the second thing was, to be really honest, I was coming to those sets with an expectation that I think I had developed on Harry Potter, which was that the people I worked with were going to be my family and that we were going to be lifelong friends. I came to work looking for friendship, and that was a very painful experience for me outside of Harry Potter and in Hollywood. Like, bone-breakingly painful. Because most people don't come to those environments looking for friendships. They're looking for, this is my chance, this is my role, this is what I want out of it, I'm focused, this is my job, this is my career, like, let's go. And I was not of that mindset. And so I found the rejection really painful.
The friendship rejection, yeah.
Yeah, of like, I was like, I think it's so unusual to make a set of films for 12 years. And we were a community, like we really were. And so I took that as an expectation into my other workplaces, and I just got my ass kicked. I really did.
Was it competition? Was it envy? Was it just hierarchy? Was it?
I think it was a combination. It was a Molotov cocktail of all of the above. As we mentioned earlier, I'm just not thick-skinned. Maybe I just wasn't built for those kinds of highly competitive environments. It broke me. Yeah. But in a way, I'm proud that it did, because I guess that means I have something left to break. I have a heart left to break. So it was a hard learning, but I think there's something that I'm proud of in a way, that there were certain things I couldn't withstand. I'd much rather keep my humanity.
I think there might be tissue down there. If you need it,
I'm managing to keep the tears inside.
If you need it, there is a tissue.
That's really kind.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, but I really appreciate you saying that, and I mean, it's so powerful to hear how you've processed it, like just what you added there. Because when I saw your voice change and just when you were expressing it, and it hit me as you said it, and I felt it, and then the way you reflected on it kind of helped that feeling rise really beautifully, because what you said is so true, that if you were broken by a frequency of envy and competition and whatever else it was, that's only proof that you were vibrating in a way that didn't want to be pulled down into that. And it's so interesting though, how when we break to those sorts of emotions and ideas, we feel we're the weak one.
Yeah.
When it's completely the opposite.
That was the most painful thing. Was I thought I beat myself up for years afterwards, really thinking, punishing myself, saying you couldn't hack it, you weren't strong enough. Mm-hmm. And yeah, what bliss and what peace, I think, to understand that to have come out on top would have been a greater failure, I think, in terms of who I actually care about being.
Yeah, it's almost like if you abandoned yourself in that moment in order to align with that new way of thinking, you'd probably beat yourself up more long term and have a much harder time.
Yes, I think so. I don't know, I've just got to this place where it's just, if it costs me any part of my peace, it's just too expensive. And of course, there's opportunities that I think, wow, that would be amazing. And I care deeply about my work. But I think I just used to completely sacrifice myself for whatever the thing was I was trying to achieve. And that could be a grade, it could be a movie, it could be promoting. I just was obsessed with excellence and doing everything, giving my all to everything and doing it to the best of my ability. And unless you have the right people around you that can hold that kind of level of commitment, you're going to get smashed up. You're just going to get crushed. And so I think now it's just a case of me being okay, I know that for me to do anything, I have to have people in the room that care about me more than whatever the product is or whatever the final product is. And if that isn't the case, I cannot be there, because I'm just someone who gives it all. Is how I'm built. And I think understanding that makeup of myself and not punishing myself for that, but just knowing it needs certain kinds of conditions is how I've come to, hopefully, I'll keep doing it forever and probably every day, but accepting myself.
Yeah, it seems like I've spoken to so many, and we were talking about this last week when we were speaking on the phone, that I've worked with so many young people, musicians who've all been told, all right, if you don't do this over the next 12 months, you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
Or like, if you don't do this right now, if you don't say yes to this song or this movie, it's like, you might as well wave it goodbye. You're never going to get the Oscar or the whatever it may be, or the Grammy or whatever it is. And I can't imagine being a young person. Like I'm 37 now, and you process ideas like that differently.
Yeah.
But if you're in your teens or even 20s, and maybe even 30s, but you process those statements with so much gravitas, especially when it's someone of influence and power saying it to you. And it feels like being surrounded by people who really believe in you and your longevity and your art but that's hard to find.
It is. It's hard to find. And, I had a wonderful team. Like I really did. I think it's just like understanding that no one at the end of the day is going to be in the room. Like when you're actually doing the thing, you have to carry that moment and you have to carry that pressure. Also, making films, the hours on them are so demanding that to have your own life alongside that, to have that balance, is almost impossible. It's so all or nothing. It's so all encompassing, especially if you're in a lead role. You kind of go through these, working 6 days a week, 14 to 16-hour days, and then you're just kind of dropped off at the end of it. And maybe you'll have a 2 or 3 month gap, and then there's just kind of like nothing. And so you're like riding this like incredible peak of like adrenaline and cortisol, and then you just get like dropped off the edge. And then you're like, okay, wait, now I have to be a functioning human again. And I have to like figure out how to be a person in the real world. And I think some of those extremes then force an actor to either decide, well, I'm going to back it. So I'm going to basically go from one movie to the next, and that's going to be my full life. Or you have to navigate these huge impacts on your nervous system that you need a system and a support system to help you navigate. And I think it's why addiction and mental illness in my profession and in a lot of high stress, high profile professions is so commonplace, because you're trying to balance out these enormous chemical ups and downs.
Yeah, talk to people about why, because I think from the outside, when someone sees a red carpet, or when someone sees an event, it looks really glamorous. Like until I ever attended anything, and I always looked at it as like, oh my gosh, it's so glamorous, and everyone's there, and everyone must be friends, and everyone must know each other because they all, but then you're not saying that, and neither is, and anytime I've ever been on a red carpet, everyone's anxious and everyone's nervous, and that's the real experience. And people are almost waiting to leave. And some people do the red carpet and leave immediately. But what's going on there? Like, walk us through, like, I mean, for people who may not.
I think the first step is to just understand, even though you're wearing an incredibly glamorous dress and you're there to do something exciting, I don't think there's anything that can make it not weird that people are screaming at the top of their lungs. Like it just, everything in your body says something's wrong. Like people are screaming, something's wrong. But then you have to try to pretend as though this is all normal and you're unfazed. So you have like two things going on. One, you're like navigating this like sensory overload that's like telling you, oh my God, something is really wrong.
Telling you how to pose, telling you where to look, telling you.
Yeah, so you're trying to navigate, okay, something feels wrong, but I need to also simultaneously make it seem as though I am the most graceful and the most calm I've ever been in my whole life. And I need to like pose for this person, and there's 50 different cameras, and I need to make sure that I look perfectly into each and every one. And I probably will have had 4 different notes from the stylist about how I'm supposed to stand and what I need to do for the dress. And then I've got like 25 different talking points from the movie of like what I need to get across and also avoid saying or talking about. And so you're like, you need to be thinking about that. And the juggle's crazy. And then I think everyone is in this like kind of jumped up state. And so like trying to have a normal conversation with anyone is basically impossible because you feel like an insane person. And so these are not environments in which you like have a nice chat with someone, really. I mean, maybe if you're really lucky and you've worked with someone for a long time and you've established some trust. But I think that was the other thing that was like really difficult about movies and what like I kind of laugh at. Well, not in a mean way, but like, you know, you always get asked when you're like promoting these big films, like, so do you guys hang out on set? And like, do you guys hang out? And like, are you all friends? And everyone sort of like nods enthusiastically. But the truth is no one has seen each other outside of work, like very, very, very rarely. Mostly because the schedule is insane. Everyone's so tired that when they get any time off, you're going straight back to your hotel room to try to like claw in any piece of rest that you possibly can. And like, I don't know, like friendships require time and trust and presence, and those things like very rarely come about. They can and they like do occasionally, but it's more of a you know, solar eclipse than than an everyday situation. So yeah, but you have to pretend. I think that's the part that starts to feel icky after a while, is like you have to pretend that you're all best friends. And what's so sad, and I know this isn't just the case for me, but like, I think people wish they were.
Yeah.
I think we wish we did have those real connections and we did have that real support. And so having to pretend that something exists that you actually really want but don't have is like... It's like
That's it.
Pretty grainy in the wound, you know? It's like, it's pretty like tough pill to swallow to have to act out something that you wish were real but isn't real.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part that starts to kind of, yeah, I can only speak for myself, but those are definitely the moments where I've been like, this feels dark. Like, is anyone else like, this feels dark?